Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. It's markets in the morning. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. This is where we take a look at the United States stock market and the cryptocurrency market like Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and the altcoin market to see what happens as the U.S. stock market opens and we get ready to start our day. The U.S. stock market is set to open up in 1 minute, so we'll see how the markets do react as the markets get going. Overnight, yesterday, quite a bit of action that happened in the afternoon and in the evening yesterday. As you guys know, it's just live streams galore yesterday, as we did have the Federal Reserve FOMC meeting where they discussed rate hikes, and we did have a pause yesterday. Pause comes with a little bit of a stipulation, as they did not raise the federal funds rate, but then signaled that there will be 50 more basis points of rate hikes throughout the remainder of 2023. If we look over here at CME FedWatch, you can actually see that the market is pricing in right now that there's a 2/3 chance or a 64% chance that we will see a rate hike at the next meeting. I'm going to bet that's not true. I'm going to bet that this statistic will change drastically for one particular reason. There's a plethora of reasons, but we'll go with one just in particular. As we watched what happened last time, we saw that we were staying at like 75% chance of a rate pause pretty much all the way until the day before the meeting. And then it shot up to like 97% chance that we were going to have a rate pause. What was it that signaled it? It was the CPI data, right? We waited for CPI to come out. That CPI data that we get in July, it's going to knock CPI down to like 2.9, 3.0, 3.1, something like that. And when that happens, I think we're going to see this massive shift happen over here. Either way, that's for another story. Another time, talk about Fed. I think we've had enough Fed for at this point, but they did pause. However, they signaled they tried to be as hawkish as possible with that pause to make it sound like we're not done. We're not done. We're just temporarily pausing. And we're going to see how things go, but we plan to raise even more. So be worried of us. But we'll see how that all goes. But that's pretty much the gist of what they did say. They also signaled that they will not be doing any type of quantitative easing as the United States government has issued new debt. They've raised the debt ceiling. Someone has to buy that debt. The Fed has signaled they will not be the ones to do it. So for the people who like the term money printer go burr and correlated money printer go burr with the debt ceiling being raised. Money printer go burr and debt ceiling being raised only matters if the Fed is the one who buys the debt. And they signaled they will not be. Another concerning issue with them saying they're going to continue raising rates even more is, we talked about this yesterday, I talked about this in my newsletter, is that in order to fund that debt, there is $2 trillion sitting over in the reverse repo market with the Fed, the reverse repo facility. So if that money flooded out of that facility and bought all the debt, everything would be just fine. But if they're signaling they're going to raise rates, will that money really actually leave that facility? So we'll be keeping an eye on that for the next week or two to see if that money floods out of the reverse repo facility to go pay for all the debt, or if that money is going to be coming from the U.S. stock market. So as we can see, Bitcoin, holy cow, it got into the box. I was starting to think it just wasn't. I just thought it was not going to get in there at this point. But there we go. It has now reached in and it's inside the box. So we'll see if this area ends up being the hold in here. We can clearly see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rolls back up to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll see if this is our holding support in here, and we can just start working our way out of there. We'll talk about a couple of different things in regards to the altcoin market when it comes to things that I'm seeing that just super remind me of C19 and the fear in the market. We're in the cruel summer is how we've been describing it for a couple of months. Welcome to your cruel summer. But then at the same time, of course, there's that underlying fear that's going on out there in the market on top of all of it, with the SEC, right, coming at it from all angles, right? You got the whole Ripple case, and you got Binance, and you got Coinbase, and then now there's this whole crazy Prometheus thing going on out there, which even Stuart Alderati made a passive aggressive comment on today. But I'll be covering that more. We're not going to cover it too much today, Prometheus in this, but it does seem that there's even more corruption involved with the SEC working backdoor deals with a company to try to push the marketing message of digital asset securities. Gary Gensler actually showed his hand a little too early. If you go look through his tweets, he actually wrote a tweet the other day calling them digital asset securities. And then you have this Prometheus company testifying in front of the House Financial Services Committee, whatever, calling them digital asset securities, repeating the talking points of the SEC, just absolutely stupid. But anyway, we'll cover that another time. So, of course, there's this overwhelming SEC stuff, right? Are they trying to crush the market at the same time? Prices are down. Fear is out there. But either way, I'm going to show you guys what I see happening over there in the altcoin market, why I'm optimistic, and we'll go from there. But all right, so here we go. We're in the box for Bitcoin. Finally, we reached there. I was starting to think I thought we were just going to hold here, not going to even get in there. But here we are. We're in it. As for the stock market, oh, nice. It's got a slight opening, slight up here for the Dow to start the morning. NASDAQ's down a little bit. So the NASDAQ's down 0.44%. The S&P's down 0.17%. The Dow Jones is up 0.05%. Looking over here, winners versus losers. United Health, which was the big loser yesterday, is now leading today, but only up 1.2%. It was down like 6 or 7 yesterday. Losers today over here is going to be Coinbase and Tesla. So you got United Health, Caterpillar, and Apple on the top. By the way, Apple's in an all-time high right now. So we'll talk about the stock market here for a minute, just once we get there. Once we get to the next slide that I have here. So there you go. That's how you're starting your day out. Yields pretty mixed over here. They were pretty green earlier today. I thought I saw some of these are up like 3% over here, but it looks like they've kind of tamed down now that the market has actually opened. One thing we watched during the Fed meeting yesterday is we were watching the dollar. So the dollar has gotten back down to these lows. It looks like I'm going to put this on the 1 minute chart. Usually do not pay attention to the 1 minute chart, but it's just because we have extreme volatility on the 1 minute chart. This is when the Fed rate came out, right? We saw the dollar, boom, shoot right back up. Stalling. Here we are. We're all the way back down at these lows once again for the dollar again. So nothing crazy occurring with the dollar in that moment. You can now see just a complete turn back, U-turn right back down after that Fed pause, the announcement of the Fed pause in there. So still on track for what we're looking for, hopefully over here with the dollar. There does become a new low, and seeing how the market responds down there in a new low. So talking about stocks, obviously we get the Fed pivot, even though they become hawkish on the pivot. I don't think they're going to raise next time, but we'll see. Usually I don't make those kinds of predictions because I'm way too naive on the Fed to be able to make that kind of prediction. But if what we saw happen this last time where the CPI data was the signal to shoot it to 97%, I have been talking about this for months. I said in our reading in May, we're not going to see a big change. We didn't. I said when we see our reading in June, we're going to see a big change. We did. With that big change came the adjustment in the market pricing in whether or not there would be a rate hike. And when we get the data coming out in July for CPI, it's going to be just like it was this month or even more, where there's going to be this big drop in CPI. If that is what influenced the market, which it did at the time, when that data came out, boom, it shot the pause up really high. If that's true, I would assume that's what we're going to see again here. But of course, we have this Fed pause happen at the retracement level, right at the 702 for the Dow Jones, right at the 702 for the NASDAQ. What do you think the chances are that you live in a simulation? I'd put it at pretty high. So the thing that, should we do stock market now or should we move on to crypto? We'll move on to crypto and then we'll come back to talking about this. So, all right. So there you go. There's your federal funds rate and all the rate hikes. First time we have our pause. You can see what the 2-year and the 10-year are doing, kind of stalling out here a little bit. No real decision, but I wouldn't say anything is trending or happening here to be like, oh, something huge is happening. As for gold pushed down slightly lower, still now kind of recovered in here. Not too much of a change. Looked like it was having a breakdown, but still able to hold itself. No decision over there on gold. Let's move on to crypto and talk about living in this kind of moment and this deep into it after you're already just kind of beat down for a long time in the crypto market. This is the yellow box I have highlighted here is what I've overlaid is like several different altcoins from back in 2018, 2019, and 2020. And I know a lot of people came into this market in 2021, Laser Eyes and Diamond Hands, 2022. And don't know that we went through a moment like this, and it was just this deep into it where the sky completely fell. The sky is falling, the sky is falling, the world is over, we're doomed. And you know, I understand that we kind of have like what feels like that. And I was describing that in a text message this morning. And they seem to really like that text. So let me just read it. I said, this is a pretty amazing time. It's like we're in this giant epic battle of good versus evil. And there's this underlying feeling of hopelessness as the evil plays what feels like a rigged game. But to have faith, good will triumph, which I absolutely do have faith that it will. And that these are the darkest hours before the clouds clear. And that we have been through moments like this before. The story is different. The narrative is different. But to go through a moment like this deep into it, we've been through it before. And I just wanted to show you what it was like being in 2018 through 2020, how long we were into it and how you sit there waiting for the market to turn back to the upside and you just get some crud happening in here. In that this is what it was like at this time. And I'm noticing a couple of similarities in the market of behavior happening like that. I'm in the other quarter right now. I'll move you back over. That, you know, there's similarities in the market of just us being at like that at that moment. So, you know, I get it. Not everybody's favorite coin is SHIB. Neither is mine. But I did want to also point to it that, you know, not only can we look at all the altcoins from some of the altcoins, from back in 2018 through 2020. You could look at all of them. They're all going to have similar things like this, and the timing is going to line up in here. But, you know, even if you look at something like SHIB right here on what's happening in regards to accumulation and holding the support, and here's this like liquidation happening of total fear in the market with the narrative happening in there, and that this is Cardano, and this is just what it was like being through 2018, 2019, and 2020, and that, you know, even this, I haven't even measured this, but I guarantee it's not that bad. 93%. Oh no, that's so bad. It is bad. Don't get me wrong. But even Cardano in this circumstance right in here was down 98.62%. So imagine investing $100 and your $100 is now worth $1.48. If you had bought $100 at the literal peak, it's down to $1.48. And then rages on and goes back to the all-time highs. But just structurally, this is where we were at when we were in that moment. And so I say to myself, I look at this, I'm like, gosh, like our timing is just lining up so silly for it to happen. And then that we can find coins in the cryptocurrency market doing the same accumulation schematics, holding the lows, then doing Wyckoff and being spring right into the same locations all at the same time as we're having these happen in other places. And I find it fascinating. And like we've been talking about with like Atom, that you can just clearly see the Wyckoff accumulation in here. You can clearly see that we are working on spring happening in here. I brought the creek up on the channel for years. Creek breaks. Kind of a famous thing that I've said for years is that phase, and just how obvious it is that that's what we're having happening in here. It doesn't mean, right, like we don't have a little bit more scary right in here, but that we're like right at the end. If the bottom isn't already in, it's very, very soon, is my thoughts in here. And one thing we can do too is like you can go back and look at the altcoin market. So if we zoom out on the altcoin market and just understand where we're at. Some of you guys have seen me do like the Ethereum super cycle, right? We've done, clearly would hope everybody has seen the Bitcoin super cycles by now. We don't even really talk about them anymore, but we spent years talking about Bitcoin super cycles. And I've presented the odd similarities of Ethereum super cycles. And just understanding what like these bigger corrections in the altcoin market look like before we end up running up in here. And that we've been doing very similar to that in here right now. And just that even accumulation happening in here, that you're in spring, right? That's where you're at. We can kind of stretch this out if we want to say, hey, time's going a little bit slower in here. Let's go a little bit longer. There you go. That these are the same schematics that are happening in here, and that we're just really raging on, right? We've just kind of gotten our way in here. We're just kind of working out our cruel summer to happen in here. And that's the way I'm treating it. And so I am actively accumulating this market. Now, call that stupid, call it whatever you want. I am actively accumulating the market currently. I think I have for the last 3 days, so including this morning. So this morning I did make some small buys in the market. I'm going with a nibbling every few hours kind of strategy, maybe nibbling every 6 hours or so to grab it. And then if we get one more, the thing I'm really looking for is if like on these assets, if there is like one more push, essentially, if there's really just like one more push down in here, I will finish, I'll go all in. And that's just me. Do not follow me blindly, but I'm letting you know what I'm doing because that's just what I do on my channel. So I've been entering into assets as we've been in this dip in here. And should we get one more push, I'll wrap it up. I'll YOLO. So as you can clearly see, if there is something along these lines, I'm going to guess it's not. We're trying to guess time here. I'm going to guess we're not going to drag on here for 9 months, 7 months. I don't think that's going to happen. But if it did, it would probably suck. But you know, I don't think we will. But you know, you see it. I'll show it to you just so you can at least have a view of it. There you have it. Again, this has been stretched out. So if we actually grab this, and if we don't use that, that timing structure, that's kind of what timing is like, right? So this is modified, this is stretched. Time predictions on this don't put a lot of faith in that. All I've done is taken this thing and I've gone like that. That's all I did. So there you have it. Otherwise, that is what our accumulations have looked like historically. There you go. And what these corrections have looked like and what we have looked like here, right? There you have it. All right. So Bitcoin in the box. Can't believe it. There we are. Dow Jones up 91 points, 0.27%. S&P up 0.15%. NASDAQ down only 0.03%. So nice little recovery. If you remember maybe 10 minutes ago, NASDAQ was down about 0.44%. That's a pretty decent bounce back to have happened in there. Let's see if we've had any shift here. We obviously have more in the green now. Still United Health being the winner and Coinbase being the loser to get out the gates. Gold has shifted into the green. Platinum's in the green. Silver slightly in the red at 0.59%. Let's look at the dollar. Did the dollar break into new lows yet on the daily time frame? Yes. So there we go. There goes the dollar. For those who were watching the Fed live stream yesterday, we saw the dollar fire straight back up on the 1 minute chart. You can see it just hovering here, and then boom, now here we go. We've turned back around and we're heading down to the downside. So pretty good. That's a good sign. Next, I want to talk about the stock market. So here we are with the NASDAQ, right? So the ultimate fears here being with where the NASDAQ is and being with where the Dow Jones is. And let's get off the futures. Let's go to the actual Dow Jones. There we go. Both of them obviously are into the retracement levels, right? Nerve wracking. We get the Fed to pause right in here. Let's look at this correction, right? So now the big question is, does it go break into all-time highs or do we get a massive rejection right in here? You know how I am going to be. If you're not new to this channel, I will not exhibit fear down here, and I will get screamed at and told at, don't fight the Fed. But when we get back to retracement levels, that's where everything always gets wishy-washy for me. It's always about getting back to retracements, and then that's where all the unknown happens. Most retail investors will say, fear, sell the lows, it's going to go lower. this is where I'm like, look, this is where the real danger resides in. And so as we get back in here, still that's going to be my case, right? My worry is going to be that there's big problems here at the retracement levels. But I will have a conversation of what would be the case of a new all-time high, right? So we'll talk about that. And I could see it happening. But to be very clear, I'm just always utterly terrified at retracement levels after prices have gone up. Retail investors get scared after prices have gone down. I get terrified after prices have gone up. That's how it has always been. But as we're back in here, let's talk about scenarios of possibilities. And the things that we know in regards to extensions are that the NASDAQ got very close to hitting a 4.236 extension, but short, right? Right here in between 3.618 and 4.236. The Dow Jones, very similar as well, right? The Dow Jones, in between 3.618, 4.236, not quite getting to a 4.236. Where have we seen this before, right? I want to go back and we're going to look at lessons learned from crypto. For Ethereum and for Bitcoin in 2021, what we saw were big fat run-ups. They got above the 3.618, but not quite to the 4.236. It's very similar to what we've seen happen over here in the Dow, and very similar to what we've seen happen over here in the NASDAQ, right? Afterwards, big fall, goes on, sets the high, hits the 4.236 extension, then it rolls all the way over, right? So kind of conceptually looking at this to understand when we've looked at these and talked about these before, and it's been a while, how these distributions tend to end up looking like, and that this is very common distribution, and it's also like what you see in Bitcoin even back in the day. Let's go like way back in the day. Hopefully this 8 hour will give a good show of it. We don't have to switch to a smaller time frame. We probably are. But as you can see, typically we're going to have this parabolic kind of rise. I really don't like this time frame. There we go. In a typical distribution correction, we have somewhat of a parabolic rise that ends up happening, followed by a fall, moves to the new all-time high, and then fails. For those who've been around with the channel for a long time, know about this because we actually talked about this repeatedly at the top of Bitcoin, and that we expected the top of Bitcoin to look like that, which it did, right? That is what the top of Bitcoin ended up looking like. I better be careful with this chart. I just deleted all my stuff, and we don't want that. All right. That is your typical distribution. That's what we also ended up having happen for Ethereum. We had right here at the top. It's very obvious, right? You have the I don't like that color. You have the, oh my gosh, you get out of here, you. Sorry guys, we're just struggling, but that's just what it's like when we go live. We have a parabolic rise, and this is distribution. So this has all the elements of distribution. So this is called your buying climax. Buying climax. This is called your automatic reaction. Right. As we make an immediate fall. This is our, I believe it's a secondary test. I believe it's a secondary test. And this is our sign of weakness. Then we have an up thrust to a new all-time high. And then we have last point of supply. And then SOW, I got this wrong. I can't remember what that is. SOW, I got one of these wrong. I can't remember. And then we go for the break. This is your standard thing. Buying climax, automatic reaction, secondary test, sign of weakness, up thrust, last point of support, and then break. That's just normal. And to focus on discussing where we're at right here. All this in distribution, right? On a big time frame. So a lot of times we're always kind of looking for that parabolic blow off top to end up occurring, right? But instead we actually get a distribution schematic that's like this, that ends with a buying climax of a parabola at the end, followed by the automatic reaction, and then we set the new high in the up thrust, and then it's over. That's a very common correction. And it's what we saw with Ethereum in here. This is the same kind of correction, just less liquidity. And Ethereum's only like $1 or $2, $3 down in here. But it's the same idea that we get the up thrust into the new all-time high, fails, and then the correction continues on. That's the same style correction that is happening over here, this whole thing in here. And so you'll understand why we're talking about this as we move back to the stock market, is that we know this style of top, which one can argue is an Elliott wave expanded flat, is the style, is what this is called, is that we got up to near 4.236 extension. We get above 3.618, right? Then, let's see, let's get that correct. That's not correct. There we go. We get above 3.618, not to 4.236. We have a failure, and then we go, right? But studying what this looks like and how these look like. Okay, so now conceptually, we just built the case on how this top has looked. And then to kind of understand what happens in here, and to see how, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you just work it up. But we always come back down in here of the parabola, right? We work our way back down into the kind of the beginning area of the parabola, to then go on, have the up thrust, and then we go into, I guess we could call this Great Depression, right? We have lots of Great Depressions in crypto, call it that. Now to understand what we're seeing over here in the Dow, in the NASDAQ, of that, right? So we're talking about Ethereum. We'll take all this off just so we can see it clearly. That you could see these working in here, right? Buying climax. Our buying climax, and then our automatic reaction pulls us down here with our sign of weakness, right? And you can just see where we find the support here, at least in the NASDAQ, right? It finds support in here, and that's also where we find support here, and it was where we found support for Bitcoin. Now we've got the NASDAQ shooting straight up, right? So now we're into the retracement levels. Everything is worrisome, but we're seeing a couple of things behave like they're not getting completely slammed at these 4.236 extensions, or excuse me, at these 702 retracements, 786, 618, doesn't matter. This whole zone is not crushing these things right now. We're not seeing that with Apple. We're not seeing that with NVIDIA. Both of them have gotten into new all-time highs, right? So let's look at Apple for just a second. There's Apple. It has set another new all-time high today, right? Holy guacamole, new all-time high for Apple. But notice that. Is this a distribution schematic? Because you could see it in here as well. Parabola of a buying climax, pulls back in, and then the all-time highs. So the discussion we're having is, can the NASDAQ set a new all-time high? And if we're not seeing if we're not seeing things stop out here, there could be the chance that we do. But to not discount it, because what will happen is what we saw in crypto in 2021. You can kind of play the psychology of what just happened in the stock market and play that same psychology of what happened with Bitcoin at this time too. Does anybody remember what the summer of 2021 was pretty much deemed for Bitcoin? Just admit it's a bear market. Just admit it's a bear market. And then it goes and sets a new all-time high, and everybody's convinced it's going to $100,000 for Bitcoin, right? No matter how much you screamed it wasn't going to, it didn't matter. Market's eyes were fixated on the prize of 100K. And that would seem that, and I can't predict that's going to happen. You see where we are in retracement levels. You know it. In retracement levels, this is the most dangerous level. But we have something that looks very similar to the early phases of a larger distribution schematic happening on here. And that hopefully we do end up getting that, because it buys us more time. Because as we know, crypto is not keeping up with the stock market right now. But while we're in these retracements, clearly, concern. We could see the NASDAQ got rejected by the 0.68 back in the dot-com bubble burst. Hey, we're beyond that. So if we're getting beyond that, what can we look to say, maybe we're gonna get something else going on in here? And the thing that just keeps reflecting back at me is what our tops for Bitcoin look like, what our tops for Ethereum look like, what our distribution schematics were looking like, how we typically have these, how we saw it both in Ethereum back in 2016, and we saw it for Bitcoin in 2017, these parabolas followed by automatic reactions. And that's what this is. This is the automatic reaction. Okay, I don't know. Get out of here. Yes, somebody asked in there, hey, what'd you say? Could you please make a guide on how Wyckoff works on your BCB or BC backer course? Yes, I've already recorded it for the new one. It's already fully recorded. We're getting there. We're getting there. We not only Wyckoff accumulation, but we also talk all about Wyckoff distribution as well. And we use all the graphs and all the everything to talk about Wyckoff distribution. So that's what this term actually is, right? That's what you have happening here on the top of Ethereum. That's what you have happening over there on Bitcoin. This is a classic Wyckoff distribution schematic. And the early phase of it is this. This is the whole early phase. And that is that potentially what this is right here, because it sure awfully looks like it. And we're now getting into retracements. So of course, this is the danger. This is not where you scream, hey, we're going to go set new all-time highs. FOMO now. The Fed paused. We're in retracements. FOMO now. That's the stupidest thing you could say. But we're seeing Apple set a new all-time high. We're seeing NVIDIA set a new all-time high. Why? Are we convinced those are going into brand new, super, mega, massive bull runs? Or is that because we're also seeing the same distribution schematics happen on things like Apple, where if we were going to pretend this is like Bitcoin, right? We see something like this, right? That's your distribution schematic. And to just be cautious of it. But if we had it, it would actually be a little optimistic, just because of where we're at currently right now. As for the Dow, so the Dow doesn't scream it the same way as the NASDAQ does. So that's a concern for the Dow in particular. The thing that the Dow does have going for it is this ABC that's right here. ABC. It's odd to be having that right here and to be recovering here in typical breakdowns. So typically, if we're going to get back into these retracement levels, it's unusual to see that unless if we're kind of setting ourselves up. And so what we know is that when Ethereum did do that, we also had that set up here. Is that we did, ABC, to then go on and have that final push up. That's also what Bitcoin did, right? So Bitcoin had a move up, gets close to the retracement, ABCs, and then goes on to have its final distribution happening at the tops. So if we do get a new all-time high to come into these markets, I think like you have to say, is it even remotely possible, right? It's definitely remotely possible just because we haven't hit extensions. Is it probable? That's the big question. But is it possible if we have these similar structures of distribution where we get above the 3.618, don't quite hit the 4.236 as we did for Ethereum and as we did for Bitcoin, right? And then we have that final excess that goes on and finishes off distribution at the tops, right? That's kind of the exact scenario that we're drawing out here when it comes to the NASDAQ. And like one thing we called this back in 2021, when we were looking for a 50% crash to happen in Bitcoin to then go on and set the new all-time high. So that's why there's a lot of confusion on what happened with altcoins, what happened with everything, because things did play out very similar to how we were looking for them. But we said, hey, look, we're looking for a 50% crash, and then we go on and set the new all-time high, but just by barely, and then we're turning over and we're done. And that's because this is deemed as like your first profit take, that a market will go completely parabolic, right? It goes completely parabolic, and then there's a first initial profit taking of the market, and then it goes on for the final push, and then it's game over. And so like when we look at what the NASDAQ had done up until this point, there's been no initial profit take that has happened in this market, while at the same time not quite reaching that 4.236 extension, right? So it comes up just a little bit short in here. Then we get our first profit take, right? So is that remotely reasonable to happen? I don't know how anybody could argue that that's not possible, right? You have to be worried that you're in retracements. It's a dangerous time of being in the retracements, but could this be the first phase of distribution? That's also very reasonable as well. And if that is the case, if it's the first phase of distribution happening in here to eventually set a new all-time high, that leaves a lot of optimism for crypto at least, right? That if we do something like that, like we saw with Bitcoin, right? Let's say you do this, maybe ABC here for a minute, you go on, and then you're going to spend a bunch of time up in here. Being up in there would be a wonderful thing for crypto. But, watch out, watch the heck out. But, food for thought. The fact that the NASDAQ has ripped back to these retracement levels, it's probably going to correct. Each of these show that you end up getting some type of correction in here, and that it can go above retraces. We saw that for both Ethereum, and we saw it for Bitcoin. Bitcoin came up short, actually went above retraces before it started correcting to then go on for one more push. So food for thought is something I'm watching. And if we do get a new all-time high, to keep it in the back of your mind where you're at, and not to get, you understand where I will be, is that it's going to be that this is not some new bull market beginning, that this is the final phase of distribution. And so what I'm trying to show you is the structures of what distribution look like when we get to peaks, and what distribution schematics do look like in these phases after a first initial profit take, and to just kind of think about that. That's the way I'll be treating it. And understanding the location at which the NASDAQ is at while this is occurring is that it's also at an appropriate price level for that to be occurring at. Is that getting above 3.618, not quite making it to 4.236, as we see in here. That is what we've had happening in here. And that there's a chance that we go on there. But to not treat it the way I am going to be treating it is not the beginning of a new bull market, but to be treating it like what most people won't be. You remember that this is the phase where everybody's thinking, like with Bitcoin, that it's going to $100,000 and not listening that this was distribution. So for those who are like, what are you talking about? This would be like the same thing of where Bitcoin gets, to 58, 59,000, it crashes, and then it goes back up and it gets to, 69K, whatever it got to, 66K. I don't remember what the number was. Why don't we go look? 69. It'd be like that. Is that what we'd be seeing over here in the NASDAQ? Hopefully that's what we do get. But just be mindful of it. And but this would be an optimistic outcome. This would buy the crypto market more time, satisfy some conditions for the market to move up. So fingers crossed that is the outcome that's in the deck. And it would make a little bit of sense on why Congress has not banned themselves from owning stocks yet. Because they are. They will. They're the good guys, man. They're going to ban themselves from owning these stocks. You gotta love them. All right. Otherwise, back to crypto if you're just tuning in. So we'll hit these and then we'll dive into the charts. Obviously, big move happened yesterday after the Fed did pause. Fed paused and markets kind of sold off afterwards. Let's see. How are the markets doing now? Okay. Most of the market's in the green now. This is cool. So United Health still the leader, Coinbase down a little bit. Gold recovering, dollar getting wrecked. Dollar getting crushed. Bitcoin got to the box, can't believe it. Even I was convinced that maybe we weren't going to get in there. Sure enough, here we are. Looking at crypto, some of the things I talked about in this time right now, obviously, this is where depression kicks in. This is where frustration kicks in. We've talked about this, a cruel summer. Toxicity would return during the cruel summer. And that, I've been kind of pointing to this on how it's just been so interesting to watch how this is kind of that time period where we were in it this long in 2018. If you guys don't know, but by this, I was making videos in 2019 before we went into C19. And, we went through all of this together. So this is not my first rodeo going through stuff like this, being this late into a cycle and some crazy stuff happening. And obviously the crazy stuff we have is, like I read a text earlier, kind of like that feeling of good versus evil, having the SEC feel like they're corrupt as can possibly be. Working with companies like Prometheus is what it appears like. Obviously we just get the Bill Hinman documents showing that obviously there's somebody who's compromised in there. And then, of course, the attacks on Binance and the attacks on Coinbase, it just feels overwhelming. And we're watching the market kind of sell off at the same point while it's all happening, and how this was kind of like our moment in C19 where things were kind of hitting the fan all at once. And it was real hard to see that light at the end of the tunnel because it just felt so overwhelming during C19, right? Unemployment sky high. People are just trying to get toilet paper, right? People are trying to get paper towels. Where do I get hand sanitizer, right? Face masks, all that kind of stuff is what people are worried about. And I'm over here making YouTube videos saying, hey, I think Bitcoin's going to go up. They're like, get your hand sanitizer. What are you doing? Stop making YouTube videos about Bitcoin going to 60K. Get hand sanitizer. Like, sorry. Okay. But, it was a dark moment that people just didn't think we were going to pull out of. There was no light at the end of the tunnel at the time. It was really gloomy. And obviously, we there's a little bit of that overhang right now with the SEC, but will we pull out of it, right? Well, the good, you have to have faith, right? The good guys are going to come out ahead. This is a temporary moment in time. It's creating artificially low prices because of the additional fear, worry, and concern out there, and that probably some plan in there at play for it to kind of come to a conclusion. Prometheum. Sorry, I keep calling it Prometheus. It's Prometheum. But when we look at things like, don't tell me I lost it. Did I lose it? There it is. This is not to promote SHIB, okay, in any means. But if you take a look at SHIB and you kind of look at, the timing of where these assets are from that we had in 2019, 2020, how the timing is arriving here. And then we look over here at SHIB and you look at Cardano. So this is Cardano during the 2018, 2019 bear, and here's C19, right? Boom. Big old slam back down into the lows, right? As you can see, long Wyckoff accumulation holding for some time in here, right? And then spring comes in, to get down to this moment in time of where we're at right now. And that this is just what we're seeing throughout the market right now. And doesn't feel good unless you kind of like already like are like, dude, I've like intended to accumulate this kind of time period, which I'm fortunate I have. There are times, of course, where we get into these moments like this and I'm not prepared for it. I don't have any capital ready to go for it. This is one of the ones where I have. But you know, that it's a temporary moment in time, pull out of it. And that this is, take it for what it is. You can see where we are. And this is my thoughts. I think this is what we're in. I think there's still a chance that, we look at Wyckoff accumulation happening in here. You can very clearly see it. This is the creek breakdown happening in here. And that in this example, obviously it shows us not going into set a new low, right? Like for things like Atom in here. But I definitely am not naive enough to believe that isn't true. That typically you can definitely see that. And that may be mixed throughout the market on us actually getting a new kind of low to come in here and hit. But if we do get that new little whamp low to come in here to happen, that would be my point of I'm done. I've thrown it all in. Let's rock. I've bought all and I'm done. I have been accumulating each day right now and just kind of picking the ones like if there's a certain time where I see something in particular that's down quite a bit on my list. So I have a list right now of which ones that I'm willing to go after. I accumulated last night. I accumulated some earlier this morning. And it's just kind of right now, it's just kind of like constant nibbling. It's more than what I was doing a week or two ago. Now it's like constant nibbling. And because we're kind of like it's so volatile in there that we're kind of seeing these moments happening throughout multiple times of the day. And so yesterday when there was kind of the sell-off went after it, this morning there was a little bit of a sell-off at one point. I went and grabbed during this morning and really waiting to see if we can get one more flush. If we get one more flush, boom, it's all gone. We're done. And then again, for those who missed earlier this morning, we're talking about just kind of where we're at, right? So like if you go back and understand the length of these things and the structure of how this is the altcoin market, where we're at right now. Even we're signaling here, we're in spring phase, right? We're just in the spring of Wyckoff accumulation, as we're showing over there with Atom. Spring phase happening in here. That's what you've got over there in the altcoin market. Tough it out, cruel summer, like we've constantly said. But the box has been arrived. Schematics are arriving. We just got to tough it out now and be, as a DAI says, put our big boy pants on, ride this one out, and we'll get through this little SEC storm, and things will turn back up. Everybody will be FOMOing all over again. So, all right, that's it. We went through the stock market. We went through Bitcoin. We went through altcoin market. We went through C19 similarities. Showed you this bad boy right in here. Even showing you the schematic happening during C19 for Cardano, where you are with some of these assets currently right now, as you can see. Schematics on Atom and fractals and structures on the altcoin market. Understanding where we are. As Bitcoin sits in here. All right. Oh, we didn't even talk about XRP. I mean, that's the one everybody wants to talk about, right? Like, hush up, BCB. XRP. I don't even think I've looked at it this morning. I don't know how I could forget it. So, all right. So we've pulled back. We've gotten back down to 46 cents. This is what we were talking about a couple weeks ago, right? Is it really a couple weeks ago? Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago. So 46 has been reached. This is where, at this point, this structure, of course, this is just massive rejection, right? And so we pointed this out the day it happened, that the volume that came in here was so massive, it was like reversal volume. Obviously, it came through with a vengeance happening in here. Definitely with the amount of time you have in here, you can look at indicators. There's no, at least, indication of reversal back to the upside happening here for XRP just as of yet. So I'm not going to sit here and be too optimistic. You have in the short term, like today or tomorrow or the next day, in like not only looking at the indicator behavior to recognize that there was massive amounts of selling that showed up in here, just absolute massive amounts. Somebody was there prepared to do that. No doubt about it. The amount that came out there. But now, all that built up excitement in retail, their buy pressure is removed, right? So imagine that not only are there sellers there, but there's an exorbitant amount of buyers who were pressing the price up because they were excited about the emails being released, hoping for something bombshell to come out of that. And it disappointed. I get it. Spin it however you want to say it has significance. Did it have significance? Of course. Was there the bombshell? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. This is amazing. XRP is like super champ now because of this. It wasn't in there, right? There wasn't something that surprised the market from what it had already priced itself at. The market had already priced itself for what came out of that to meet expectations. Were there significant things that happen in there that are probably going to set precedent moving forward? Yes. But did people expect that? Yes. So there was nothing too surprising about the emails that came out of there. So all the FOMO buying, all the excitement, the anticipation buying that was happening is gone, right? Now, of course, it's going to be summary judgment. We don't have a date for summary judgment like we did with where we had a specific date for the emails. So what do you have? Buy the rumor, sell the news. So now we kind of just sit back and wait and let this thing kind of calm down and calm itself out. It's ugly. From an accumulation schematic, I mean, I could come up with a bunch of different theories on how this will happen in here, but it's just not as pretty as it once was. Now, at this point, what do we have? You could have crash, retrace, reaccumulation, right? Continuing out there. You have zigzag that could set slight low to close this gap down in here. Just, it's a rough one now with what ended up happening in here. What we could say, right? What we could do is theorize that this never happened, right? This is based entirely on an event. This was temporary. This lasted for 1 hour, right? You can see here's the hour candle shooting up. Here it is getting fired back down immediately. We know that only occurred because of emails being released. If we pretend that didn't happen, right? What do we have? We have lower lows, lower lows, lower lows, lower highs. Emails, just kidding, pull back down. And if this anomaly hadn't been here from an event, what would we be saying? We'd be saying, well, we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? We went back into retracement levels, held below, and zigzag, right? And so zigzag corrections still take you down into these levels. So if we didn't have this, you wouldn't see me being like, this becomes much more complicated because it's hard to like, do we count that? Do we not count that? What do we do about this thing? Because it's totally just from emails, right? Emails get released, FOMO buying, that gets sold massively immediately like it never happened. And if that wasn't there, what would we be saying? We'd be saying, well, we got stopped out by retracement levels and that we have the potential to come back to the lows for reaccumulation and in a zigzag 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's going to get us back down into those 40s, right? So it's a certainly complicated scenario because of this stupid thing right here. And whether or not that has any validity on structure or not for measurements moving forward. But otherwise, I don't see anything screaming that it's ready to break out at this time. And we're now just into massive range city. So failed attempt at the retraces, as you guys know, that's where we get to. Either we can get out and crush it, or this is where all the struggling happens at. And as we can see, our struggling has kicked in. So time for patience and for things to just turn themselves around. Otherwise, this is one that I still haven't been filling my bags yet. So like when it comes to buying the crypto market, I'm getting really close to being done with other altcoins. I think at this point now, after this move that we've had currently with the altcoin market, and these moves down that we've been seeing happening in here for the market, that I am close to 70% done with my accumulating when it comes to the altcoins, except for XRP. That one still has quite a bit to go. There's still funds allocated to that haven't been deployed yet. And right now, I just don't have a perfectly clear read on this right here, so I'm letting it settle to get a better read to allocate. If for some reason there was just some flasher that took it down into here, I have no problem doing it. I just start deploying. But right now, after we just had such a huge rejection of massive volume, giving it a minute to breathe here for XRP. But I still do have a lot of funds of a large percentage of the funds originally allocated for XRP still prepared to be deployed, just not yet. As for other altcoins, we're at like 70% done. Kind of waiting right now. Can I get that one last little push to deploy the remaining 30? And then boom, there we go. And fingers crossed, I have just deployed a bunch of money at the location similar to C19. That's my hope. And that in the spring phase of accumulation, I just made a big I personally, hopefully, have made a big accumulation as well. So, all right, that's where we're at. Welcome to the green box, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hop into the chat. Ed, the Metalhead, new member. First time, dude. Welcome, man. Thank you. Zoltan Vokoya, one gift. He gifted a BCB membership. Thank you, Zoltan. Amron Jeffrey, keep your head up, everybody. DCA in, and we will be celebrating before long. Love you guys. There you go. There's some positive support from Amron, guys. Community. Sebastian Barros says, hey, I'm in the other corner now. Woohoo. Yeah, I moved it. Let's see if I can get it back. There we go. It has now moved back to the appropriate corner. Exceed. Hey, BCB, my portfolio is still down 21%, but thanks to you, I don't sell the bottom for lower prices. I just want to say thank you, man. I'm really learning a lot from your alpha. Hopefully I have time to accumulate. Man, down 21%. That's not that bad in crypto. I don't like when you see like Doge buyers who get upset about their portfolio swinging 50% negative and stuff. You go back to like this. Oh, let's get it on another. Let's get it on. We'll do it on here. We don't need to. Like, if you don't walk into this market with the expectations of understanding what this market's like, I mean, here we are. We're just all we're doing is overlaying the last one. Right? There's nothing unusual happening in here. This is just the last one that's right in here. And to say, oh, is Doge acting unusual? No, it looks pretty normal, right? And so you go back in and you measure this, and so like you're like, I'm down 21%. Here you can measure all of these, right? There's negative 84. There's negative 67. There's negative 64. There's negative 73. There's negative 60. Let me just do this little one right here. There's negative 44. And there's negative 68. And then, like, let's pretend you bought all this time. You're like, dude, I nailed it so good. I nailed it so good the whole time, except right here because, it went lower, right? Like, I'm such a pro at accumulating that this is my accumulation box, right? It's like every time it gets down in here, I'm buying, and I'm doing such a great job accumulating. Even in the moment when C19 hit, you became down negative 48. So this is just kind of how crypto goes. And this is how volatile this asset class is. So then, of course, as we all know, this is the exception to the rule for crypto. One of the ones that went absolute ham, up tens of thousands percent. Not the case for most of the market, but as you can see, that's the type of volatility the people who hung around in Doge had to deal with before ever getting to that. And the majority of people who got into Doge, of the general public, they got in here. And of course, they got in here, which we're not going to do Pepe, but essentially Pepe is kind of back at that same level right now for with its smaller time frame. Okay. Thank you, Exceed. Jerome T. Hey, BCB. I also joined the other live stream you were on. Although the host said they listen to you all the time, they Even didn't know Frog Day or your view on the Dow correlation. It made me laugh. Yeah, I'm not so sure if everybody watches the channel, but there was some that do. That Mario guy who made the video, he does. You could tell he does. That he was able to go back and find that stuff that had happened. He had created his own intro, and I had never seen that before. It was my first time to watch it there live with you guys. That was cool. It was weird. It was just weird to relive those moments. You hear your own voice, especially from years ago, and remembering what that moment was like. It was so weird because when we were in that moment for Bitcoin, when it was at like 51, like in that intro, right? It's like Bitcoin's at $51,000. I just finished completing 50% of my exit plan on Bitcoin, right? It's in the intro of that live stream yesterday. And reliving that moment, you think to yourself, man, that must have been like a glorious feel-good day. And something weird happened when I watched that. Like here I am, I'm jumping on this live stream, I'm supposed to be having a good time and fun. It went back to a memory that wasn't good. That memory of selling at 51K, it felt terrible. It felt horrible. It just like buying dips feels horrible. Well, selling rips feels horrible too. You're doubting yourself the whole time. I mean, you're doing it, definitely doubting what you're doing. And that at that time, if you think people talk trash to me in the depths of despair and toxicity when the market is down, they don't stop when the market's up. They'll do it no matter what. And in that circumstance, I was getting it from every angle. Not only was I getting it from people commenting on everything, tons of other content creators were calling me out by name, talking S. So it was also that, one of the reasons that it got so much publicity that I was calling that we were reaching the peak of Bitcoin is because so many other content creators were talking S, and they did the marketing for me. And it didn't feel good at that time. To have a lot of your peers doing that to you was weird, and it brought that memory back. And if you guys know, that's something I don't do on my channel. I don't go around to other people's Twitter accounts and comment on their TA and tell them they suck. I don't bring up other TA names on my YouTube channel. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to do my work. If you think my work sucks, it's fair. It's fair. Just move on to the next one. Find something better, and that's the way things work. But I'm not here to in any way be like this guy. You should definitely watch me because this other guy sucks. You're going to figure that out on your own, right? It's up to you. You're going to find your own perception and determine that yourself. So that was a weird time. I don't know why I'm still rambling around about that, but that brought up those memories, and that's how the stream started. So now I've got all that in the back of my head right when the stream starts, and I know that wasn't their intention. Their intention was to say, "Look how cool this was. This was amazing." And that was like, I would talk about emotional management. I talk about, having an emotional log and remembering what that was like. And that even though those words were coming out of my mouth and I was doing that, it didn't feel good. I was fighting the opposite sides of my emotions in that time. So, all right, we're moving on. Thank you, Jerome. Appreciate it, man. Kermit the Frog. Sometimes you don't have to smash it hard. In fact, sometimes it's not right to do, but sometimes you got to. Or just gently tap the like button. Do it however you like. But if you're going to hit the like button, make sure you hit it an odd amount of times. Such as 3, that's totally fine. 1 is okay. 5, 7, that's great. Just don't hit it 2, 4, or 6. 1, 3, or 5. All right. Oscar Hernandez, thank you, Kermit. Oscar Hernandez, thank you so much. He says, spank that frog. What? Rest in peace, Harambe. Gary, we love you. So, okay, is the rest in peace Harambe thing, does that have to do with Blockchain Trucker? I don't know what's going on with that. I feel like I'm missing it. I've had so much going on. I don't know if that's what I'm missing. Yes. Okay, yes, it does. Oh, my man. Okay, so I guess I saw he had, I've seen him kind of posting, he had an Instagram, I guess like 95,000 followers, and it got hacked or something. I'm not on Instagram, so I don't see that stuff. Is that what that's all about? Thank you, Oscar. I appreciate it, man. Pat comes out. Thank you, Pat. Gives 5. With 5 memberships. Thank you, Pat. Ken Beat says, hey, I got the course in 2020 before the run. This is my first chat. What do you think of EOS Dash, Bitcoin Cash, Zcash? What to move to instead of them? Congress is waiting for all-time high to be ethical. Yeah, they're likely being ethical. Yeah. So they're all in the same boat. So I've already recorded a pretty long video. I'm almost done with it for the next course. And looking at any assets that were in the top 30. And what you will find in the top 30, regardless if you said to yourself, I'm going to buy the whole top 10 and that's going to be my investment strategy, or if you went and you said, I'm not going to avoid the top 10, but I'm going to go buy ranks number 11 through 20, right? Let's just say that's how you were going to accumulate the market, which is like where we are right now. So I'm creating this video where we're running a simulation, right? And the simulation is that let's zoom out. Let's go to total. Running a simulation of that, we're like accumulating the market right here, right? And what do prices get to by the time we get here, right? And what would have happened if you broadly accumulated the top 10? And what would have happened if you broadly accumulated instead of the top 10 ranks 11 through 20, right? Or ranks 21 through 30. And so what we have is it didn't matter which set we picked from. It didn't matter if we picked from ranks 1 through 10. It didn't matter if we picked from ranks 11 through 20, or if we picked from ranks 21 through 30. No matter which one we picked, we only would have had 2 from each set that would have gone on big bull runs, no matter what. So the ones from the top 10, the only 2 that did were Ethereum and Binance Coin. The ones from ranks number 11 through 20, the only 2 that did were Cardano and Chainlink. You could technically count Ethereum Classic in that too. However, if you get the course and you see it, you'll understand why I didn't include it. And it's because of the particular dates that we have. But if we go on to set number 3 and we look at ranks number 21 through 30, and if you said, I'm going to accumulate all 10 of these, the only 2 that would have gone would have been Dogecoin and VeChain. So out of these 30, you have 6 that have gone. All 24 of the other ones are all in the exact same boat, right? So what's the problem with these other assets? And that's the thing to have to determine. What was the factors that led to the 6 out of the 30 going? And that's a far different market behavior from our last bull. So if you would have done the exact same thing, if you would have waded this deep into a bear in 2014, right? There's your 2014 bear. Here's 2015. You're like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and grab the top 10. Well, if you did that, if you grabbed the top 10 right here, the average return, 70x. 70x. Invested $10,000, turns into $700,000 just in the first leg of the market. As Bitcoin breaks out into its new all-time high, as the altcoin market goes, that 10K turns to 700K by just grabbing the top 10. If you did that in 2019, if you grabbed the top 10 evenly, put $1,000 into each one of them, it would not be anywhere near 700K. It would be like 120. Gets like a 12x return. So what's the deciding factor on figuring out which one goes, which ones don't? And I think a lot of them are in the same boat. I think a lot of it's just determining what is development activity looking like? Is there abandonment that is happening in there? And I think we're seeing a lot of that on a lot of these coins, regardless of if they survive through it, deep into it, do they start to show signs of abandonment? Because if we go back into 2019 in this time period, we will see that both EOS and Bitcoin Cash, people don't know this. Let's pull it up. It's a good stat. We'll show it to you. If I can find it. Hold on. We're going to get it. Hold on. Here we go. Here we go. So most ecosystems have less than 250 developers, which we can see Bitcoin over here at 300 developers, and we can see Ethereum over here at 1,150 developers. But if we remove Ethereum and Bitcoin as outliers to see which other assets have the most number of developers, EOS is the third up. So you have Ethereum, Bitcoin, EOS. So big boy EOS, it's here, number 3, way far from the pack, double number 4. So EOS is getting development on it big time over here, right? Looking over here on transaction count, not only does EOS have a large number of developers working on it, it's also doing more transactions daily than Tron, Bitcoin, and Ethereum combined, rocking it in 2019, right? However, which we could also see Tron and XRP are way up in here too for total daily transactions, but EOS leading the way. If we switch away from looking at actual transaction count and instead start looking at dollar value being transferred over the network, suddenly things change a little bit. Now we have Bitcoin who's leading the way, and that makes more sense. Less transactions, but the most dollar value is being transferred over the Bitcoin network. Next up, surprisingly, Bitcoin Cash, right? So we have EOS, who has the third most number of developers working on it. We have EOS with the most number of actual transactions occurring on it. And then we have Bitcoin Cash ranked number 2 for most volume transacting on the network daily. Over $1 billion. Ethereum over here, less than 500 million per day. Bitcoin Cash coming in at $1 billion. Most ecosystems have less than $1 billion of daily transactions in 2019. But we have 7 that are at least at 100 million. EOS does at least make it into the 100 million category, where we only have 7 that are. We have Bitcoin Cash obviously in here, and we have EOS in here. But where's the problem? Why did those factors not matter? Why did it not matter that Bitcoin Cash was doing the second most volume on chain daily? Why did it not matter that EOS was doing the number 1 amount of transactions daily? And why did it not matter that out of the 7, EOS even landed within the most volume of dollars transferred on it? The reason why they were losing developers. And what we'll find is that if systems are losing developers, it doesn't matter how big they've gotten. Once they start losing developers, they're dying. That seems to historically be the trend that we are seeing emerge from 2019 to 2021. And that to hang out and to chill in stuff that is losing interest from developers shows that they are just losing, they're going to fall apart in general. What we will find is it doesn't really matter about developer growth as much as it matters about developer decline. And that developer decline is an indication of a slow and steady death, regardless of how big they've gotten. I would say that was the biggest. I said going to consensus probably costed me about $3,000. Getting that data right there from consensus made the whole thing worth it because I've gotten to play with all that data and I get to share it with you. So paying attention to that and making sure if you're trying to pick the winners, right? So what we can see is that picking the winners is going to be difficult to try to get something that's going to massively exceed the market. When you're talking about only 2 out of 10 from the top 10, you're talking only 2 out of 10 from the top 20, we're talking only 2 out of 10 out of the top 30. Odds are not in your favor that you are going to go all in on the winner. And what is likely going to happen is that you're likely going to diversify your portfolio somewhat, right? You're not going to find people who are going to do anything unless they're Bitcoin maxis or EOS maxis. I'm saying EOS maxis. I'm reading this guy who says, so dump EOS. Do whatever you want, man. I'm not going to tell you what to do. And you're not going to find somebody who's, it takes a lot of risk to be a maxi on anything. Because what we will find is even maxis of Bitcoin, okay, hard truth, hard reality, what a Bitcoin maxi would never want to tell you if this person right here went all in on Bitcoin and only went all in on Bitcoin right here in December of 2019, by the time we got here, they had underperformed the market. When you take the averages of all of them, you include the 2 out of 10 that went on their big runs in a diversified altcoin portfolio. If you would have thrown a dart at the wall, right? If you had the top 30 altcoins on a dartboard, and if you took a dart and you threw it at it and picked 10, the statistical probability of you beating the Bitcoin maxi was there. No matter what 10 they landed on, you were going to beat it. Hey, Steve, let's chill, bro. You're just flooding, bro. So I don't remember where I'm going with that now. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, statistical probability of you being able to pick the one that's going to win, very difficult. What are people probably going to do? They're going to diversify, right? So if they're going to diversify, it's got to be more than just a gut feeling, right? I mean, there's going to be some gut that you're leaning on to say, you know what, this one feels like it's growing. It feels like it's good. It feels like this. It feels like that. But are there any other statistics that you can look at to say this particular group of assets had this type of behavior if they also had this type of quality with them? And that it did not matter how big their chain was. It did not matter how much volume they were doing. It did not matter how many developers were on there, right? You could have the third most developers out of the entire thing. If you are in decline on developers, that is a big problem. And so if you have a nice big portfolio of 10 assets or more, so I'm going to assume most people actually have more than 10. At least I do. The odds get improved by removing those, is what the data shows. The developer data does not indicate and tell you which one is going to be the one that 25x's or which is going to be the one that 48x's, or in Dogecoin's situation, 270x's, right? You're not going to really get that from developer data. But what you are going to be able to do with developer data is whittle down the losers out, the ones that are in decline. And that's hard to do sometimes because our mind tells us, well, look at it. It's huge, right? Like EOS was a giant in 2019. I don't think people realize that. I mean, developers were on it. The transaction volumes were huge. But something occurred and it started dwindling down. And right now, while we're in a moment like this in the market, what we're talking about, if this is the case, right? If crypto's not dying, right? If we're in here and this is like the C19 opportunity to grab stuff, how do you figure out which ones are the ones to run from or to go for? And I think the ones to grab are going to be harder to pick who is going to be the magic one. But there's definitely the definite thing that can help weed out losers is no matter how big they are, no matter how much Twitter hype there is about something, no matter how much transaction volume it has, if underlying developers are leaving, seems like a good idea to do the same. We'll leave it at that. Phil Cordero. Phil Cordero, you're gonna be so mad. You're generous. Thank you, man. Hey, BCB, I've been following you since December of 2019. Man, I've watched all your videos many times over. I just want to say God bless you and your family, and thank you for all you do, my man. You are a legend. Jeez, thank you so much. And you've been waiting a long time for me to read that. I'm an hour behind you guys. That's rude of me. And that was your first time, man, Phil. Thank you. And Ken, that was your first time too. Thank you. Phil was very generous. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm going to try to catch up. Pat says, seriously, love your work, big fella. Hit like, peeps. Man, thank you. And Pat, you're always doing this. Thank you, the memberships, man. JB Heavy Equipment says, when it makes a new high, it's called UTAD. No. That's the UTAD is if you're like, so you think of, we have the Wyckoff here. UTA, so this is, if I flipped this, right? Can I flip this whole thing? Will it flip my image too? It'd be so dope. Let's find out. No, it doesn't. UTAD, so like it's the inverse of this, right? So if we're looking at Wyckoff distribution, right? The parabola that we're talking about, up thrust, and then this would be your UTAD. So this is kind of like your spring, right? So that's like this phase where it sets a new low over here. But as you can see in lots of distributions, like we saw with Bitcoin, we didn't have UTAD, right? We had last point of supply. But this is your upthrust. So this is a UT, right? Last point of supply, and UTAD would have been, if we came up one more time, then it would have been UTAD. The more you know. But thank you, JB. JR Flight 10 says, alts that haven't made new lows are ones to look at. Not necessarily. It's not as easy as saying ones that haven't made new lows are the ones to look at. It's going to be more than that. So you're going to have to weed your stuff down a whole lot more than that, man. I think that's almost like a tell me what coins to buy thing. You're going to have to look more deeper into them, each individual one. Thank you. Oscar Hernandez, when Gary. Tay Brown says, are you accumulating XRP right now? What is your analysis for XRP entries? I think I've already covered that. Your message was 40 minutes ago. I'm pretty sure I answered that one. Right now, I'm letting it breathe. I'm going to let it at least settle or do something. Because the only thing we have to look at right here, right? The only thing to see that has happened here is a third range boundary that was massively sold. Massively sold and has not stopped. So giving it room to breathe, to either build a bullish divergence, prove there's a support down here, at least close some gaps. I mean, you haven't even gotten down here yet. I'm letting it kind of chill out for a minute. But I'm pretty sure we already covered this because you did that 40 minutes ago. Clayton Rushok, updated thoughts on Link. I'm not liking it, man. Right? For me, Link was just kind of a trade to get back. Link's not a long-term hold for me. The hard parts on Link. It's a gap closure, right? So it's a support tester, which I had not done up until this point. But I'm also not convinced. I'm not convinced it's so springy for, in spring phase of Wyckoff. I'm tempted to cut my Link. And put it into Atom Cosmos, which is dangerous. As you know, the SEC just labeled that a security. I'm just not feeling this for Chainlink. But to be aware, maybe it's... Here's the problem, right? You've been here for one whole year. What is the probability that this is spring, right? What is the probability? That's what this is. And it's just the same thing as we're seeing everywhere in the market. I would say probability-wise, statistically, I would say it's probably highly likely that this is nothing more than spring, shakeout, right? This is the last test of supply, right? And that would seem probable to me, unless there's a bigger long-term problem with Link. So a problem I have with Link, like to hold it long-term, so why won't I hold it long-term, is that it does have developer decline. So as a long-term hold, I have a problem with Link. But I think the risks, for me, in my thought process, the risks on Link seem higher than like things like Atom. So I'm debating on it. I haven't cut it. I still have it. Not liking it though, and probably will. And I've been so busy, haven't had enough time to look at it too closely these last couple of days. I did 3 live streams yesterday, so I'll probably take a look at this and think this one over. But not a big mega fan for something that I was really just trying to catch a trade back into, $13. It just doesn't seem like it wants to do it. So back to the bottom of the range. Thing is, this is where it gets hard. This is the, is it spring for Link or is it worse, right? So I don't know. I'll look at it some more and try to get back to you tomorrow. OG Max says, hey, can you say the price for those who can't see the screen? Yeah, I try to, but I have to, it's hard. I understand that some people listen in a car, and I do try to make a conscious effort to say the numbers, but the reality is this is a visual channel, right? I'm showing charts, we're pointing at things, and it's hard to remember that every single time. It's a consistent issue for the last 3.5 years of doing this YouTube channel, to remember prices. And sometimes I'll do it. I will make the real big conscious effort to say prices. And what I found is that my videos added like 5 minutes because I'm like, here. And then I'm like, 17, 14, 12, 7, 550, 438, 12. And like, there's so much added that happens. It really kills the flow is what I've noticed. If I don't just keep doing it my own way. And I appreciate my truckers who listen. I appreciate everybody who is like on the job working. Maybe they just put the phone in their pocket, they popped in the earbuds. The fact that you're listening rocks. But this is a visual channel, and there's just parts of it that it becomes hard to keep your flow and be who you are, and to just explain things in your passionate way. When you have to stop and point at each thing and say something, it just goes with the flow. I had some dude at XRP Las Vegas, like, he said it to me 48 times. I'm like, oh my gosh, at this point, can we stop? Can you stop, dude? All right. Thank you, OG Mac. I try, man. I try. But a lot of this is just visual. Thank you, though. F Blade for Spin, XEP 4-hour time frame, November 24th, 2017. Overlay looks the same. Oh, we got a lot going on here now. Okay, so we're going into here, I'm assuming, right? Yeah, there you go. Maybe. Talk about here. What was the date that you said? November 24th. From November 24th. That's interesting. We'll play with it. Let's see what happens here. Or Would you say it's more like that? And that you're here, right? You're saying like here, right? What if you're here? Let's go play with it. See, like in that example right there where I was saying here or here, there would be no way for somebody who's listening in a car, there would have been no way for me to explain that without pointing and saying here. You know what I mean? What do you think? What do you think on that? That's interesting. I don't know so much about that, what you're talking about, but your little comment did bring up the idea of that. It's interesting. You might have given some hope to some people. I'll take a look at it closer when I have some spare time. Thank you, F-Lade for Spin. First timer. Thank you. I found your channel my first week in crypto back in mid-2020. If XRP hits $10 and you complete your exit strategy, would you turn around and short it? No, probably not. XRP moves so fast that I assume that when I take profit, it's going to feel just like buying a falling knife. That I'll be selling it while the rocket thrusters are still on, and I'll end up blowing myself out. No, I don't intend to short it. I also don't use leverage. Still to this day, I've never used leverage in crypto market ever. And I do not promote you guys using it either. That is your decision, and I think you are insane if you're using it. That is how you get yourself liquidated. Thank you, Zachary. Dr. Ty says, use this massage and take a deep breath. No matter how many BCP haters out there are more of us backing you and rocking the Wednesdays together. Yes, there are, Dr. Ty. Thank you, guys. This whole market in the morning thing has like made it into like actual community where it's always just been me for years doing my own thing. Just coming on here, making stuff and doing comments and stuff, comment approvals and Twitter, and now it's turned into more. I was like, I know people's names and I see you guys interact with each other all the time. It's like a different world now. And just these last, how long have you been doing this? 4 or 5 months? Thank you, Dr. Ty. Matthew Trong, first timer. Love your content. Just wanted to get your take on XRP moving forward. Now that we ditched the fractal, what are your theories for XRP moving forward? I'm not sure what you're talking about, ditch the fractal. This is still Wyckoff accumulation. It just hasn't broken out yet. So if we're talking super short-term time frame, if we're talking like, how are we going to, like, this is what we are in. We are in a big fat range, right? And ranges are hard. Ranges are incredibly difficult to get out of and to figure out when we're going to break. Sure feels like we have enough elements to be near the end, as we have selling climax, automatic rallies, secondary tests, and then secondary tests in phase B, secondary test in phase B, right? Then we come above, and then now this is it. So this is all this final ending, right? This is all either spring or this is last point of support. And this is where all the complications reside in this final phase of a larger anatomy of a trading range. And as we can see, the anatomy of the trading ranges we see all throughout different assets in this market are behaving differently in this particular phase. So for example, here is Atom, right? Atom's behaving within a Wyckoff accumulation trading range, which we have on the top of it. I can't believe I have all these stupid lines on here. Get off of here. Here's our trading range for Atom. and it's just very clear and easy, right? You've got a creek and then falling into spring, right? Probably going to fall again, but easy peasy, right? And so we can see when this dates back to May, right? May, then June. Here's your selling climax, right? Oh, I have so many tabs open. I'm going to move you way over here near XRP. So we're in that same phase, right? We're in that final spot here, but we got a real clear one over here on Atom of a Creek. Or you go over to SHIB, right? SHIB's way lower, right? It's all still the same accumulation range, but its spring has set a new low. Atom has not. XRPs is higher. They're all just acting differently, but they're all in that same phase, right? Which is, oh, I've deleted it because we were playing around with it so much. Which is all the same here, right? So this is the same stuff happening in here, same depths even of how far these fall in here for the altcoin market. And as you can see, we're just in these same phases, right? And what we're in right here is we're even in spring phase in total. And I'll stretch this out just to make it a little cleaner to see, right? We're in spring phase. Of the market, but they're just all have little different tiny quirks to them, making each of them different. So there's nothing that's broken with XRP in any way. But I see this all the time. Whenever price changes like this, emotional investment of those emails was huge up here. There are people who are so emotionally invested in the emails up in here that I started getting text when the emails came out, the day the emails came out and prices started falling down, immediately getting text messages of people so disappointed. And they're like, I don't see how we're ever going to get to higher prices. I don't see how we're ever going to get out of here, out of this range. It just doesn't make any sense. We're doomed. And I got multiples of those immediately. And you watch how sentiment flips so dang fast on this thing. And that's what it was, right? It was a buildup of excitement for a news event that under-delivered. And I do not give a crud how any of these Twitter personalities or any of these content creators want to spin it of how glorious and sell it to me on how awesome it was. It under-delivered. It doesn't matter. The market is telling you it under-delivered. You can't spin it as hard as you can to tell me it did any different. It just under-delivered because there was no bombshell surprise. There was nothing that made anybody say, oh my gosh. The thing that people are trying to make into seem like it was a bombshell surprise was that Exhibit 220 that clearly is Ripple hiring a third party to give them an analysis of XRP to make XRP look super gloriously not like a security. So that way, if the SEC ever sued them, they could say, well, how are we supposed to know? How are we being reckless when we hired a lawyer to do an analysis on XRP and he told us that, like, it is definitely not a security. That's what that document is. That's what Exhibit 220 is. It's likely Ripple hired a third party to give them that in case the SEC ever came at them. They could say, how were we supposed to know? We tried to get a legal analysis to tell us it's not to tell us if it's a security, right? And I think we remember that too from years ago when they did that. This is probably that document. But it's getting sold as the smoking gun. It's getting sold as that's the bombshell, that it's written by the SEC, and it's not. It's by a third party that Ripple hired. So anyway, we didn't get it. People are disappointed. People are crying, and that is what it is. It's just part of the game. Time to grow up, boys, ladies and gentlemen. As DAI says, put those big boy pants on. We're gonna be all right. Just wasn't time yet. All right, Kermit, the Frog, UK. So XRP win also means more devs, win-win, right? So if anybody wants to hear that in the latest developer report, XRP developers were growing. Fun fact, in 2019, XRP developers were declining. But they're growing now. Anthony Trujillo, hit the like button if you love XRP and BCB. Thank you, Anthony. And he gifted a BCB membership. There we go. Somebody asked what I think of DOT. Where is that in the chat? Pag says, what do you think of DOT? So DOT's an interesting one because DOT has so many developers in it. Let me take a look at this real quick. So Polkadot has the second most developers in it, right? 675. And so here's kind of where that theory is going to get tested, right? So if you look at Polkadot for so the number as of April 1st, right? The asset with the number one amount of developers on it is Ethereum, 1,976. Number two, Polkadot, 675, right? Problem with Polkadot is since December, it declined by 13%. Now, if you were to look at December 2021 to December 2022, Polkadot was slightly positive, so slightly okay. But between December 1st and between April 1st, it declined by 13%. Now, there's naturally, and if you look at developer data, you'll see developers they're very seasonal. It's just like selling retail toys, right? Toys are going to be seasonal. They're going to be really popular during what time? Christmas, right? You're going to sell a whole lot more toys at Christmas time than you are at any other time of the year or holiday time period, right? There's a seasonality of developers that always fall off in January and then they come back late February, March. So when you look at DOT and it's got this and that seasonality declines about 10%, okay? At least when we look at the last 4 years. So you look at DOT's declined between December and as of April, it declined by 13%. Is that just seasonality decline or is that more than that? So as for DOT, the price chart looks okay. The price chart, it looks a lot like Cardano did back in 2018 through 2020, SHIB does right here. It's the same thing. It's down here at these lows right down in here for DOT. The thing to pay attention to is whenever we get the next developer report and to see how is DOT doing. Is DOT recovering or is DOT declining? Because while we do see DOT declined, Polkadot declined 13% between December and April, Ethereum grew. Ethereum grew by 4%. And to be fair, most things declined. The only ones that unfortunately, we don't have I don't have stats for everything on how they did between December and April. But while Polkadot did decline by 13%, other assets did rise during that time, such as Cardano, which was up 1%, Ethereum, which was up 3%, right? No, 4%. Bitcoin was also up 5%. But those numbers are almost negligible because they're so close. It's almost, you could argue that Polkadot has kind of flatlined. and to pay attention when more developer data comes out to see which direction Polkadot has gone. It's grown very big in regards to developers with 675, but it seems to have flattened out for about a year. So when we get another developer report, which of course I'm waiting on, there hasn't been one released since April. Once we get another one, I'll be on here talking about it. And trying to issue ones that, warnings on ones that are seeing massive developer decline, like we saw in Algorand. We saw that right away. I started talking about that right away. Ones that are showing big declines in developer activity. And like I said, it's hard to say if there's a whole lot of meaning for ones that are seeing huge developer increases. To say that is an automatic factor of everything like shooting to the moon for it. But definitely anything that is like declining is a sign of, as historically, based on the data we've looked at, it has shown that it is an indication of a slow dying death. Alpha, I'm so sorry. You've been waiting 25 minutes. Please hurry up. I have to go, but I'm not leaving until you're done. Thank you for all your knowledge you share with everyone. That was 25 minutes ago. You were ready to go. It's an hour and 45 minutes in this thing. I do have to end this thing. Thank you, Alpha. That was your first time too. Thank you very much. Patron Visuals, first time, no message, but thank you very much. OG Max says BCB. Is there somewhere to look at developer growth? Yeah, Electric Capital. Silver Punk Skull says Fed's language seems to indicate this pause could be longer, hinting at more hikes that probably won't happen. Do you think that could mean a normal but time frame 2024, 2025 after having like the rest? Time prediction, betting on the Fed being honest. Not gonna guess. You know what I mean? It'd be a hard guess. Here's the problem. Has the Fed historically lied? Multiple times. Hard to know, man, Yeah, every time there's underlying problems, they always say there's not problems. And that's the problem. So it'd be hard to know. But if they start cutting, it's even if their language is. So here's what I would think. What I'd be worried about is if they do a 25 basis point cut and they try to sound hawkish when they do it. They're just going to try to create confusion. The fact that they paused and they act hawkish with the pause, it's weird. Like, you did what you said you were going to do. Your data is about to do stuff. Your data is about to do stuff. your CPI is going to fall. I don't know. It's weird. If they cut and they act hawkish when they cut, I'm not gonna believe it. That's what I'll say. Right now, I don't know what to believe into them. All I know is they paused. Right? They paused. They said they're not going to pause anymore. I look at this and I say I highly doubt this number is going to look like this when we get to the next meeting, which unfortunately is going to be a month and a half from now. So 69% believe that we're going to have a rate hike. We're going to get CPI data that I can't guarantee anything. It seems pretty likely it's going to swing this back this way, that the pause will continue. But I don't know. I wouldn't be able to guess Silver Punk Skull, but I appreciate the support. Crypto Student 99 says, thanks for everything that you do. It's your first time. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you very much. Sheldon Albertson, one of your first 5,000 followers here. Just wanted to thank you for more than 5 years of pick-me-ups, man. Jeez. Thank you very much for your support and watching, Sheldon. Thank you. George Alexanderopoulos, do you think ETH is going into a spring phase? Oh, yeah. It's all going into spring. It's all in spring phase. Moontosis says, BCB, you are the man. I love the channel. Thank you. How am I supposed to pronounce this again? Definition? Is that what it is? Definition? Cornet? I think I got it. Morning, dude. Thank you. I know you don't want to get into altcoins, but really love to hear your take on Theta one of these days. But they're making some big moves, but still staying under the radar. I don't know how Theta's under the radar. Isn't Theta one of the ones that went like silly crazy in the last bull? I don't think they're an under the radar coin. Yeah, I don't know about saying that's under the radar. Like this is the one like all the psychics were predicting. Yeah, this did like Dogecoin like numbers. So like if you had let's see, where do I use my stuff at? I go from here to here. This would have been, how do I do my data? May 4th. Yeah, no, it's not under the radar. This was one that went like absolutely silly in 2021. It was like really, really, really silly. And how much of that was real, I don't know. I don't have any developer data on Theta to have an opinion. I don't think I do, at least. I do not. I don't know. So unfortunately, I don't have any thoughts on it outside of that. This thing went from, staying at 4 to 16 cents for a year. It went to $16, so well over a 100x. I mean, this is obviously a support level, but will this one hold? I don't know. It's hard when you have these ones that did these things that were just so outrageous. And there's like nothing over here to look at to say here's some support. Not sure, man. Not sure. I don't really spend much time on that one. Sorry, my dude. If I had a good opinion on it, I'd tell you. Is it for EOS possible the last leg? I'm not sure what that question's asking, but it's definitely just moving with the market. Nothing special happening with that outside of doing anything else the rest of the market is doing. That's one of those ones that we've seen just developer abandonment, social media abandonment, and there's apparently a foundation has picked it up, trying to revive energy for it. And I don't know how successful they'll be. We'll see. Again, that is one of the ones that has already settled with the SEC, so they're kind of in the regulatory clear, it seems. But that didn't seem to matter in 2021. So now it's time to figure out what were the things that did matter. You do. I have a big bag of XRP and I have a big bag of algo. Should I dump my algo down 50% and put it into XRP? Dude, you've got to do better than going into a YouTube chat to ask how to handle your investments. Do some research and like figure stuff out rather than asking chat. But yeah, we've talked on this channel for a couple of months now that algo is just kind of trouble. And I know that's not something that anybody wants to hear because there's a lot of algo fans in here. So my point is never to trash talk another coin or another community ever. Why would I do that? Why am I above that? Because I'm so special. I'm the blockchain backer and I'm just above all that? No, it's because I've taken it on the chin for years with XRP. I know how it feels to get it. A lot of you guys don't know that you could not do anything without how many people in the crypto community were brainwashed, like literally we don't have it really anymore at all. The whole bankers coin stuff. Like you could not make a YouTube video without 50 of the brainwashed crew, Ethereum and Bitcoin maxis coming on to your YouTube video to comment bankers coin, S coin. It was culture, crypto culture to talk trash to the XRP community. That has calmed down a lot over the last couple of years. But I don't ever want to be that person. I don't ever want to be that guy. Like, those guys are losers. Like, imagine that is your life. I'm going to go on a YouTube video and I'm going to say, XRP the baker's coin. This is what's going on with my life. I don't suck. I'm not going to be that guy. So whenever we talk about it, I'm like, hey, algo, that developer data looks like crud. It's not to talk trash about algo. It's just to say, hey, man, you guys look into it for yourself. You figure you do your own research on that. Historically, this is not a good sign. Look at that developer data. That's all I'm saying. Up to you guys to do what you want after that. Beavis and Butthead talking crypto. Cool. All right. We got to get to the end of this thing. Wait, what? Is this guy commenting on the right one? I disagree with your opinions on DeFi. Some lesser-known DeFi protocols are highly innovative and probably the next 100Xs. Not top 50 coins. Top DeFi sucks. I haven't even talked about DeFi. What? All right, sure. What's up? Zcash and Marino both have close to 25 developers. Would you exit and go into other coins, or is there a higher odd that it can reach a full extension? I don't know. It just depends. Do you think privacy is going to come around, right? Do you think it is? It's, you know, I still have mine, right? But because fundamentally for me out of crypto, none of this stuff matters without privacy when it comes to money. None of it does. If either the privacy stuff is money is going to somehow become important, or none of the money aspect of crypto is going to work ever. When I got into crypto, it was for a lot of the reasons that Bitcoin maximalists talk about: just sound money, not being controlled by the government, fixed supply, fixed inflationary rate, and nobody can stop it. That's what I liked about it a lot. And I still about Bitcoin. I don't like that it's slow. I don't like that it's expensive. But I know for a fact it will never work so long as it's on a public ledger. Ever. It's like, I'm going to say some strong words, but it's just dumb. It's just dumb and not using your brain if you think we're going to expose our bank accounts to everybody. If your Bitcoin wallet is your bank account and that's where your money is stored, you are not going to say, hey, everybody, look inside my bank account. Here, I want to buy coffee today. You know what? When I buy this, I'm also going to allow you to look in my bank account. You can go see everywhere that I spend my money, and you can see how much money I have. You don't do that with your debit card. You don't go into a gas station thinking that you're going to swipe your card and that retailer is going to be able to see everywhere that you've swiped your debit card at, and you especially don't think they're going to be able to see how many dollars are in your debit card account, right? That's what Bitcoin does, though. You walk in and you buy something, you give them that information. You can look at my wallet now because you know my wallet address. So you could see everywhere I've spent my money, and you could see how much money I have. There is literally zero chance that will ever happen. Oh, my audio is cutting out? That sucks. Audio alert. Okay, weird. Are we cool now? Are we good? All right. Anyway, I'm on a high horse right now. I'm going to get off of it. We're going to move on. Yeah, I mean, just doesn't seem anything exciting about privacy, but from my personal, we'll see how it does when the market turns back around. If they're showing underlying weakness and they need to be cut, I'm not going to cut them down here. Just for me, it's not doing it. But if the market turns back up and there just seems to be exceptional weakness in those, then maybe so. But those, when it comes to crypto, and the original reasons I even got into crypto in the first place, that's a fundamental part of it, just in general. It exhibits the qualities that are required. All right. Audio's all good. Okay. All right. Well, we'll start wrapping it up. All right. Crypto Man X. Let's see. I don't see what you said. Let's see what you said. I can't read it. Well, thank you for the $2. Alpha Trader Inc. Still here. I refuse to leave. I'm always watching from start to end, no matter what. We should hope the judge likes the guy pursuing her, Jeremy Hogan. Well, thank you. Well, I'm about to wrap it up because I guess I'm having audio issues here. Oh, the refresh helped. It sounds like maybe it's a YouTube issue. So if you refresh your page, maybe you could, if you're having that problem, it seems to resolve it. Is ETH going into spring? Then would expect them to test the lows again, 1K area. Spring, no guarantee on how low a spring is going to go. I've even recorded all on Wyckoff accumulation. I've recorded on Wyckoff spring and had to explain that in that video too. That good luck perfectly nailing that. And we can even see that in the exhibits of Wyckoff on how low it can go. We can set new lows. We can dip new lows, we can hold lows, and we can hold up much higher. And even in Bitcoin's multiple Wyckoff accumulations we have on Bitcoin, they're at different levels. So the level is going to be difficult for Ethereum. All right, we're at 2 hours, guys. I gotta kill it. No. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. It's a busy day, so I'm going to go write a newsletter right now. So I've got to do that. Then we're back on the horse. I get it. There haven't been many videos this week, and if you guys knew that, I'm really trying to get this course done. I'm really trying to get to the finish line on this thing. There we go. So I will go ahead and I will check in with you guys tomorrow. And then I will, as you guys know, I haven't had many videos this week because I'm just recording all that stuff. And we're almost at the finish line. And once that's done, then we'll just be like, I'm looking forward to the day. I'm looking forward to the day. And I know it's coming. Where every day all I do is I make a YouTube video and do markets in the morning. Dude, when those days happen, it's going to be epic. Brandon, I see you, buddy. I see you, dude. And Tanner, I see you guys. So it's going to be soon. So we're just trying to get through the finish line. You're flooding, buddy. You got to chill out. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. 2 hours, man. Woo! Have a good one.